All right, pleasant good evening. Pleasant good evening to one and all in the class of Steel this evening. I want to acknowledge the person of His Royal Majesty, Edwin Madu. Your Majesty, again, you're welcome to this evening's class. Always a pleasure to have you with us when you're available from your very busy schedule, Your Majesty. Again, you're very welcome this evening to class. I want to acknowledge Her Excellency Doreen Barunji, our COO for the class of Steel, His Excellency Architect Olusegun Olukoya. You are very welcome this evening. Your Excellency Adiola, Stephen Abu, First Lady Jeannie, all dignitaries, ambassadors, and those who are watching this evening's class from online. We just want to welcome you to this evening's session. Again, today is the 2nd of March, 2022. And wow, we're jumping into the 3rd month of the year already. Well, let's jump straight into this evening's class. And we're picking up from part 1 with regards to dealing with open-mindedness. And this is part 2. Let me just take this on this side. All right. If you could share, if you could see my screen, just give me a wave and confirm you're seeing the screen okay. Well done. All right. Well done. Well, we're looking at being open-minded. We talked about how you evolve and you're able to think critically and rationally. And it also enables us to step out of our comfort zones and then welcome new ideas, discussions, information, and solution that you will not normally see or notice. The interesting thing about welcoming new ideas and being open-minded is we get the opportunity to recognize that even though we have an idea, a lot of times once you're open-minded, you can recognize that during conversations or discussions that something new will pop up. And an open-minded person is able to grasp, oh, this is a good idea, or this is a good point, or this is something that I can add to my portfolio, and it adds value. Being open-minded, it creates an environment to change outdated or incorrect beliefs. I just turned on my Zoom, and Zoom has updates. And updates mean that there are new things added, some old things taken away, and there's changes. And it makes it easier for the program to work. So the same thing with when we're open-minded, we create an environment where we get the opportunity to change outdated or incorrect beliefs. Sometimes what we believe or what we think would work because of prior knowledge might not work because of new updates or new plugins. So always be open-minded where you can receive and have the ability to make changes accordingly. Being open-minded, how to debate. This is one of the areas that I think is very, very important. Individuals that are closed-minded argue, quarrel, and fight very easily. They don't find it easy to debate. And I want to focus on that word debate, because debate means an exchange of ideas or in the midst of a discussion to come to a solution. And debating as an ambassador is necessary, it's critical, it's very important. And most individuals do not know how to debate because they're not open-minded. They just want to give their opinion, their point, and walk away, or end of discussion. And they don't create an environment of growth or development. They create sometimes problems along their journey with chaos and misunderstandings because they do not understand the way to correctly debate. Being open-minded teaches how to filter out negative and useless information. We just kind of briefly covered that area. We gain greater insights, new ideas and topics. We just spoke about that in the last session as well. We are confident in continued learning and embracing new experiences. New ideas and new topics and new insights will obviously create an environment where we have new experiences. The experience that we had before in what we did is going to be different because we have new information and new ideas. We acquire greater mental strength. We find that we're in a position where we have more mental strength. We're able to now handle situations and deal with things more confidently, more assuredly, and our mental capacity is greatly enhanced. We also resolve conflict easier, being open-minded because we can debate, because we've looked at different ways of doing things and getting new experiences. We learn to resolve conflicts easier. Conflicts are no longer challenges to be resolved because our ability to communicate in the midst of the dynamics that are presented are a whole lot different. So we resolve conflicts. We exercise empathy. One of the things, and there's a good and a bad about this, when we put this point here about empathy, there is a good and a bad side to empathy, or there's a strength and a weakness to empathy sometimes in light of dynamics. And I want to bring out that point very importantly. When we're open-minded, we become empathetic. We learn how to look at other people's situation, how it is affecting them, how they feel about it, and we resolve situations with mutual agreement. However, there is also a tendency for some of us that we become too empathetic, and you have to strike the balance. You don't want to go to an environment where you have so much empathy that you miss from being in tune with reality. And there's a very thin line. There's a thin line called empathetic with regards to pathetic. How many of you get what I'm saying? Sometimes you can be too soft-hearted and you give too much lead way. So you need to be in a position where you learn to strike a balance, because a balance need to be struck. That's very important. And that's why it says exercise empathy. You don't become empathetic totally. You learn to exercise empathy in the midst of your decision making. You see lessons rather than losses. A lot of times we look at things in life and we see them as a loss or a failure. But life doesn't create environments where we get too many failures. We can realize that instead of seeing them as failures, they can be lessons learned. Again, as you go through this lifelong learning, you're going to see that a lot of teaching coincides with other teaching and core principles. You're not restricted by narrow views. Your views are more wide-based, more broad-based, and it's easier to communicate with you. Less stress, more genuine happiness. I think a lot of us could do with a lot less stress and more happiness. And that comes as a result of being open-minded. In cultivating an open mind, we accept that change is an integral part of the journey. We talked about change again, embracing change and adopting change. Again, we are seeing an open mind gives us the ability to understand that change is important. And a closed-minded person will find it difficult to embrace change, will find it difficult to accept that change is important. Again, and quite simply, open-mindedness, you become mindful. Listen more than your speech. Encourage and accept honesty. Encourage and accept honesty. Let's look at that. How many of us know that sometimes when we are faced with the truth, sometimes the truth can be hard or difficult to swallow? Some individuals, when you tell them the truth, they get angry, offended, and they don't have the ability to embrace it because they lose empathy or lack empathy, but also because they're not open-minded to recognize, hey, you know what? This is important. There's some times that you would be in a friendship, a relationship, where you're going to have to face some realities about that friendship. And it's not about losing the friendship or destroying the friendship. It's about making adjustments and tweaks so that that friendship is able to be sustained in a more meaningful way. So it's all about accepting honesty. Get the facts to support your decisions. Get facts to support decisions. This is all about cultivating an open mind. Some CEOs in companies and corporations, they see a problem, and instead of getting the facts and hearing what are the dynamics surrounding the difficulties that are currently faced, they immediately react and they immediately make decisions. And sometimes those decisions are the wrong decisions to make. Those decisions sometimes are very harsh decisions, and they have very detrimental results. But when you're in an environment where you look at things holistically, you debate, you discuss, and you get facts, then you make some better decisions. You look for new opportunities to learn. New opportunities to learn means that you're a more well-rounded person. You're better suited for what you're doing. Each time you do something, you become better as a result of your open-mindedness. You learn how to evaluate information and statistics as etc. So basically, an individual that is open-minded has the ability to evaluate information, process it, sit down, look at it. Let's debate about this. Let's talk about this. Let's see how this would make the situation better. Let's see how removing this from the situation would cause the relationship to work better. You get to be a better evaluator of situations, a better assessor of situations. A lot of individuals, for example, who go to companies and you're advisors to the companies or to the organization, this is a critical skill to have, open-mindedness. And once you go in and you listen, you observe, you take notes, then you are able to look at the statistics and observe this is why that is happening. And this is what we can add to bring about a needed change in the dynamics. Accommodate new information. Sometimes we go to events and we have a perception, a mindset. But when we're open-minded, we hear other things and we receive more information, and then it creates an environment where we can rethink and reevaluate existing knowledge, because we got new information that this makes sense. That's a good idea. I never thought about that. That's something worth noting. Those are points that a person who is open-minded, those are words you hear coming from them. A CEO that is very open-minded, you will hear him saying, that's a good idea. I like that. I think we can implement that. I never saw it that way. That's good. I can work with that. Those are positive words. They're not negative words. They're very positive words. Engage useful information and new ways of thinking. Become aware of confirmation bias. Be aware of confirmation biases. Sometimes we give confirmation and it is biased. It is biased based on us looking at the way we see it through our own eyes, with our own perspective, and we have not involved others' opinions or suggestions or others' thoughts in the matter. So our confirmation it's biased. It is not with the right information, and it can't be credible to some degree because it does not have all of the facts. It's biased. So remember, we're looking at adaptive thinking, the ability to recognize unexpected situations quickly and consider various possible responses. That's why it shows the brain there and cogs, and one is going this way and one is going that way. And the two of them are causing the process to work. And we need to be mindful of how our thinking is once we're being adaptive in our thinking. Let's look at some unhelpful thinking. We look at what is helpful, etc. But let's look at some things that are not very helpful. Mindfulness involves both concentration and acceptance. You need to learn to stay in the present, deliberately pay attention to thoughts and sensations without judgment, trying to reach the state of focused relaxation. You get to that place. So let's look at some unhealthy and unhelpful thinking that could hinder the process. Overgeneralization. Sometimes we look and we overgeneralize things. Oh, that's normal. Oh, that always happens. Oh, that's always going to be a problem. Oh, that will always be. Those are overgeneralizations. When you look and you call something that can have different dynamics and you just put it in one category, in one box, you generalize it. Oh, he does that all the time. Every time he has an opinion, it is always problematic. So overgeneralization can be very unhealthy and unhelpful in processing information and being mindful. Disqualifying the positive. Sometimes the positive comes, and because the positive might not be in our favor, we disqualify it or discount it or disregard it. That's very unhelpful sometimes, because we need to be in a position where we qualify the positive. Always qualify information. Even something that comes that you don't agree with, qualify it. Qualify it with an acknowledgement and possibly, okay, this is not what I'm going to do, but I acknowledge it. I considered it. But then equally, those things that are positive, don't disqualify them because you don't have time to listen or you don't have time to hear or process them. Always be in a position where you want to qualify the positive. Jumping to conclusions is very unhealthy. Very unhealthy. Never assume you know why someone does what they're doing. Never assume it. Always be in a position where you inquire and you seek knowledge so that you are certain of what is happening and the expected outcome. Always be in a position to qualify things and don't jump to conclusions, because sometimes jumping to conclusions can be very, very wrong. For example, a lot of times individuals, I used to jump to conclusions quite a lot. I'll be very honest, in my younger days, because I was focused more on my personal association, my personal relationship with individuals. And sometimes I in the past, I lost focus and I jumped to conclusions when they didn't return my call, for example, or when they didn't respond to something that I submitted. I jumped to conclusions. Sometimes it happens to all of us. But now that I'm more mature, I'm more rounded, now that I'm in a position of such authority and power and influence, and I find myself that I run out of hours in my day. I run out of minutes in my hours. Even today, I had an exceptionally important out meeting, but because of other in meetings that were critically important, I lost the focus on the time. I lost focus on the time. And I missed a very critical appointment today as a result of my schedule that ever gets stretched. Equally, I will say today as well, I had different meetings, and my meetings ran into meetings, and I didn't even get enough sleep from last night to today. Why was that? It was because my schedule and my timing was just out of whack. Now, what has that taught me personally is that they're individuals that they're equally as busy. So don't jump to conclusions when individuals might not be able to respond immediately. Don't take it personal. Sometimes I am the last thing on some people's minds. And I need to learn that as an individual, that individuals' minds are not consumed with me alone. They're consumed with so many other things that are very needful and important for them to address. And once you get to that place, you're a lot more accommodating, you exercise more empathy and more understanding, and you find it less easy jumping to conclusions. So it's unhealthy and unhelpful jumping to conclusions without getting information and knowing the truth. Emotional reasoning. This is a good one that's very unhealthy. Oh, I don't feel he likes me. I don't feel she likes me. I don't feel this. I don't feel that. You're reasoning with your emotions. You're reasoning with how you feeling. I have a gut feeling that this isn't gonna work. But why? Because it's not moving at the pace I want it to move at, and things are not going emotional reasoning can hinder you. It is a horrible, horrible experience to pass through. Because if you really look at it, emotional reasoning does something. It causes individuals to jump to conclusions. That's what emotional reasoning does. It causes you to jump to conclusions. And then it also creates an environment where you disqualify the positive, because you're reasoning with your emotion. Why didn't he call me? Why didn't she call me? I feel he didn't call me because he doesn't like me. So now the person is calling you. All of a sudden they have an opportunity to call, and they're expressing how much they appreciate you, and you discredit or you disqualify the positive. Wait a minute, it's positive that the person is expressing how they feel about you or what's going on in their circle. Why are you disqualifying it? Because of the emotional reasoning that has taken over, and because of the jump into conclusion that have happened. So you can see all of this on healthy and unhelpful thinking breaks down communication. Mental filter, selective abstraction. So we see that when a person now filters and selectively have a selective way of looking at information, and it is very abstract. There's no focus, there's no positive. There's so many ifs and possible and maybes. There's everything is abstract. It's not direct any longer. And those things cause challenges, and they're very unhelpful. Predictions can be very, very unhelpful sometimes if you don't have the right data. If you're not open-minded and have the right discussions, then a lot of times predictions can be very unhelpful. Passing judgments. A lot of times individuals pass judgment. They come to conclusions, and those conclusions are based on gut feelings and bad information and predicting, and you pass judgments. So passing judgments it's not good. Always be in a position where you are able to listen, reason, and make decisions. But those decisions are based on facts that are reliable, conducive, and they add value. If you're going to fire someone, for example, don't fire someone by jumping to conclusion. Don't fire someone by just flying off the deep end and thinking this is the best suggestion. Always be in a position where you get facts and you do things with reasoning. Aligning new information with past experiences. Now, this is important. And I want us to look at this particular point. Aligning new information with past experiences. And I'm going to give it in a very, 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 very detailed way. How many individuals find that getting into a relationship, for example, they've just come out of a bad relationship, they just jumped into another relationship, they have new information, new dynamics, a new person, but they're treating it according to the past experience. You talk to your spouse or your partner or your friend or your newfound business partner according to what it was like with past business partners and past associates, and you accredit that particular relationship based on past experiences from other relationships or other connections. So you need to be in an environment where you learn how to appropriate new information and separate it from past experiences and give it its own merit. Don't treat individuals with information that is new according to past experiences with others that you've had. All right? Adaptive thinking. It improves your analytical thinking. Let's look at how adaptive thinking improves analytical thinking. You become observant. Once you're an analytical thinker, you become more observant. You look, Say, wow, that's interesting. You spend time focusing on those new things that you're being taught, you're seeing, you're discovering. You ask more questions, because more questions means you will get more information. And what you see will add value to what you already have in your repertoire. You focus on facts. Okay, I now understand why this culture or this colony was raised in this era and in this location. You know, the war in Iraq caused a lot of persons in the world to look at Iraq for the first time. We never knew anything about Iraq before the war in Iraq. And Iran and Iraq, and we started to look at the history, look at the religion, look at the culture. The same thing is happening right now with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine are causing a lot of individuals now to look at information, to look at the facts. A lot of persons have their perspective or their opinion of Putin. And they also have their opinion of the president of Ukraine. Everybody has an opinion. But what individuals are now doing are analytical individuals are looking at facts, looking at points, looking at dynamics, and trying to understand the whole picture rather than making immediate assumptions or making immediate decisions. Read books, articles, and other literature. An analytical thinker increases in knowledge and wisdom through reading, through learning and observing, learning how things work. You see, we have on the side there the brain and the processors and everything like that. I'm a profiler. That's my background. And conflict resolution is one of the things that I do very well as an ambassador. And I find that a lot of times the individuals that are hard to work with are actually the ones who don't want to think or figure it out. They just want solutions. How many of you know sometimes a lot of leaders just want solutions? Just fix it. And they don't, sometimes you have leaders that don't want to play their part in fixing a problem that involves them. Think about that. To fix the problem, you have a teacher, a mentor, or an ambassador, or a person on your team or on your staff who is there to cause you to understand how to fix problems. In every problem that needs to be fixed, you are going to have an important part to play. You are part of the process. And sometimes we hire individuals, but we don't want to follow and learn how things work because we think just do it and get on with it. It does not work like that. There is a process. We're not going to get any peace between Ukraine and Russia unless Ukraine and Russia sits and speak. One person might speak to Ukraine and get Ukraine's opinion. That's fine, but it doesn't solve the problem. Another person might speak to Russia and Russia might give them a perspective and opinion. That's fine, but that doesn't solve the problem. Then another person might speak to Russia at one time and Ukraine at another time. That's fine. But again, if Russia and Ukraine do not speak and communicate, it really does not matter who else intervenes. It really does not matter who else adds their 2 cents worth or their $1 million worth to the debate or the discussion. What matters is that the dynamics that are conducive to fixing the problem come together and discuss it. That's what matters the most. So you learn how things work when you're analytical thinking and you have an adaptive way of thinking. You play brain games. I love brain games, by the way. I have a fetish for brain games. As a matter of fact, my wife and I sometimes we sit together and we go through these tests of knowledge and abilities. And I find I say to myself sometimes, honey, is it that easy? Why is it so simple? And she has to alert me to recognize, darling, you read a lot of books and you know a lot of cultures and a lot of dynamics and a lot of history and a whole lot of things. So for you, it is easy. But for other persons, it might be impossible. And I want to share that with you. Position yourself that you are able to go and play games with your thinking, your ability to analyze, your ability to solve problems, your ability to fix puzzles. All of these things help you to be a rounded thinker, an analytical thinker, and create an environment where you become adaptive to any situation. When you sit down in a board meeting, for example, when you're in a board meeting, if you learn how to play chess, this is interesting. I like chess and I'm very good at chess. And if you learn how to play the game of chess, when you sit down inside of a meeting, you will have an understanding of how to be strategic in what you do, because you would look at where the queen is positioned and where the king is positioned and where your rook or your knights are positioned, and you will know where to put yourself to attack the queen or the king, because you see your position. You're analytical. Equally, I also play Monopoly and drafts and I'm a good gamer. I also play golf. And you learn how to be very adaptive, to think critically. You look at the terrain when you're hitting your golf ball and you think, okay, if I hit it in this direction, I could miss the sand, or I could go over the lake from going at this direction. So you analyze the situation. Your Excellency Architect Olukoya, you are going to be in an environment where you're in meetings, and you're going to need to figure out, how do I address this? Which angle am I going to attack this one from? Why? Because as an analytical thinker, you're going to be looking at all of the pieces of the puzzle, all of the pieces that are on the table, and decide which is the best way to address the issue. As diplomats and ambassadors that you are in training for, and when you go into government and when you go into high-level positions, you have to be an analytical thinker. One of the greatest gifts given to us as ambassadors is the ability to listen. The ability to listen. Never, ever walk into a conflict and think you have the solution. Don't do it. Listen. Hear what's on one side. Hear what's on the other side. Process it. Hear opinions of what's on one side, opinions of what's on the other side, and process it. And as an ambassador, an analytical thinker, a critical thinker, somebody who has developed the ability to process information, you now have the ability to solve the problem. So therefore, you now can be labeled as one who has problem-solving abilities. All right? So practice your problem-solving skills. Look for problems. Observe world problems as solutions and study them. Study conflicts. I remember in reading some books, Acts of War and different dynamics, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. there's some dynamics that you can read and study that will create analytical thinking and problem solving abilities. For example, when you're diving, diving is another dynamic. If you're in a submarine and there are problems in the submarine, do you bail out? How do you bail out? What's going to happen if you bail out? Well, you'll die, depending on how deep under you are. So you have to be strategic in your way out to escape, because you can get the bends coming up too fast. Definitely. And the oxygen nitrogen mixture can create a whole lot of different problems as you're coming up. So there's some dynamics that you learn, and you become able to appraise situations critically. I'm giving you a whole lot of thoughts based on my well-rounded experiences, because I want for you in the class of steel to develop that mindfulness of reading, studying, understanding, playing games that are going to challenge your skills and your creativity, so that your brain works in this dynamic. Your brain learns how to be critical in appraising situations. Think about your decisions. One of the things that I appreciate working with world leaders as an advisor is sometimes when world leaders or global leaders or change makers approach me for an answer, I don't answer immediately. I could answer immediately. I could. That's the honest truth. I could. My wife will tell you I'm a very quick thinker. I can sit down and I can give you 100 solutions and 100 suggestions to solve a problem. It's easy for me. Very, very easy. All of my faculties from my youth have been trained in critically appraising situations. As a profiler, I've studied the human anatomy, body language, all of these dynamics. I've studied culture dynamics. In racial relationships, I was married to a different racial background, so all of these dynamics train you in being able to appraise situations. However, think about your decisions before you make them, because every single dynamic, though it may seem similar, will be different. Though it might be a biracial relationship or marriage, the dynamics might be different. I was married to a white lady, and some individuals might say biracial marriages never work. That's not true. The dynamics of biracial relationships are different. So don't ever assess and make a decision based on your immediate response to the situation from past experiences. Always critically appraise situation on their own merits. So think about your decisions. As an adaptive thinking person, that is one of the tools you need to have in your arsenal. Thinking about your decisions before you make them. Adaptive thinking improves situational awareness. This is important. Situational awareness is all about knowing where you are and what you're going to say based on where you are. For example, and this is one of the things that I want us to always be mindful of. There's such a thing as in the right place at the right time. But equally, there's something about at the right place for the right reason, but the timing is the wrong time. Are you with me? So situational awareness is important to address. Be always aware of what is going on in your environment. Perceive what is happening. You go into an environment and you see two individuals having a quarrel. and you look at the situation, you observe what's going on, and you are improving your awareness. Okay? Always remember that. Your environment, look around, observe, and be very mindful of what's going on around you, what's going on in the environment, what's going on in the conversations. Listen carefully, because if you say the wrong thing in the wrong place, you can get the wrong result. Sometimes individuals show up in meetings and I observe them and they start to speak on a totally different subject. Right place, good audience, wrong conversation. So be very aware and perceive what is happening. Comprehend what is happening. Understand. Don't just perceive it. Don't just perceive, but understand what is happening. Use the above information to think ahead. Think ahead of what you're going to say. Think ahead about what you're going to do. Think ahead of how you're going to behave in that situation. So you walk into that environment and you command authority, respect in that environment. Why? Because your situational awareness is on point. So when you walk in, you know where to go, you know how to behave, you observe what to do, you understand what is happening, bang, you're good to go. So don't ever fly into a situation and think you know it, you've got it. Go into situations with an improved awareness. Adaptive thinking. Recognize unexpected situations and changes to the environment. This is what adaptive thinking does. It recognizes anything that's unexpected. I've been into places and I observed there was going to have a conflict. And I said, ooh, this one is going to escalate. His Excellency Dr. Ewers is here with us, and him and I, we're very good with this one. When we perceive there's going to be a conflict, as ambassadors, we say, you know what, let's back off. Sometimes we're even having discussions, even in persons or meeting with persons, even while we were at immigration, and there were times we were giving information, and there were times I give him a little tug on the pants, and I says, okay, yeah. This is where we leave it alone. Let's just leave it now. And we know what to do because we recognize situations and we observe what is happening, how it is happening, how it's going to pan out, and we become aware. So we recognize unexpected situations or changes to the environment. Your Excellency, a very critical one that I observed is, remember when we saw at the immigration, there were two individuals that were speaking, a gentleman and the lady, because we were next in queue. And we recognized, ooh, they're setting up for us. And when they called us to the desk, both of us went to the next desk. Because we saw this situation doesn't look like it is in our favor. So let's go to the next one that doesn't look like it is going to be challenging. So you observe your environment. Look around. Don't fall into a trap. Don't fall into a fight and ask yourself, how did I get here? Because you got into that fight because you didn't perceive that person was serious that they are going to fight. And if you don't put yourself out of the way, you can get wounded or you could get hurt. Equally in an argument, it looks like they're going to have a serious argument or a serious debate. And if you don't move out of the way or you don't observe your environment, you could be party to be pulled into a very unhealthy situation. And as ambassadors, you have to be always on point with the situations you get pulled into. All right? So observe, consider possible responses. What's going to happen if I say this? Think about it. How would you respond if you were upset and angry and somebody said to you what you're about to say to them? Now they're angry. Are you with me? How would you feel and how would you respond? So think about things and process information effectively. Effectively plan and monitor. Monitor. My wife and I have a joke about one of our learned friends that always use the word monitor the situations. We need to monitor this. We need to look into how this is going on, monitor the situation. Everything is monitor. And you find accountants do that very often, or actuarians. Anytime you're speaking to an actuarian, you will always be telling you, well, you monitor this or you monitor that. Those who are looking at the stock market, for example, or those who are managing huge portfolios, they're always monitoring situations. And they have to effectively plan, and while planning, monitor. Because at any given point in time, there are a number of variables and dynamics that could change at the drop of a hat. The cost of oil just escalated in one moment when Russia and Ukraine decided, it was going to invade Ukraine. Immediately, the price of gold escalated and the price of oil changed. If you're a person who manages portfolios, then you would know when is a good time to buy and when is a good time to hold. Why? Because you see the price of oil is going up. You see the price of gold is going up. So now is a good time to hold and manage your portfolio because it's more lucrative at this juncture. So you have an option. Am I going to sell or am I going to hold? You decide at times like these, because these are good times to make the decision, because equally, as quickly as it went up, it can drop back down again. So you look at the dynamics and monitor things effectively. Flexible in thinking, behavior, and actions. You're very flexible. You're able to adapt to changes. You become flexible. Sometimes it's important to be flexible. Don't be too rigid. Don't be too hard and fast. Sometimes it's good to exercise a little bit of flexibility in your thinking. For example, I find that my studies recently, I've been studying the colonies and understanding different cultures and different treaties. Actually, I'm also right now in the British archives, going back to the 1400s and the 1500s when there were treaties and different things that were done. And I'm observing a lot of dynamics. And when you are flexible in your thinking and your behavior and your actions, it gives you the ability to learn more, added value to what you already have. Because why? You're flexible. You don't think you've reached. You don't think you know enough or you know all that there is to know. You become flexible in your approach. And you look before you leap. I look well before I leap. I am not very quick to make decisions. And one of the reasons why I'm not quick to make decisions is because a lot of times we don't see some dynamics. For example, in some conflicts, I have learned time heals. I've learned that time causes individuals to see things differently. And sometimes individuals need a bit of time. I also know that heated arguments and strong debates are very necessary sometimes. And heated arguments and strong debates create an environment to break down some walls and some barriers of thinking and expectations and understandings. And they're very important. But then you pause and you look before you make the next leap. After this heated debate, what do I do? Do I keep hammering it, or do I wait and give it a process so that I can address it? A lot of individuals are looking at America and Russia and Ukraine, and are wondering, why doesn't America and the West jump in and fly in there and do A, B, C, and D? Why are they doing all of these sanction? Why are they addressing it this way? Well, they're called rules of engagement. You should study acts of war. And if you really study acts of war and understand that war is legal, war is important, war is a part of the process, war is not something we like, but it is something that is allowed for. And the world's and the powers there be understand that and agree with that. And that's why war has rules and regulations. For example, a lot of you might see journalists on war fields and see persons that are in the Red Cross on war grounds, and there's something you do not know. I will tell you that is important. Those persons, for example, the Red Cross and the journalists, they have immunity on the war grounds. You cannot kill a journalist during war. That is a gross, that would bring you up against the Hague for serious war crimes. You cannot shoot or injure the Red Cross, because the Red Cross duty is there to deal with the bodies and deal with those that are injured and unable to fight any longer. It's fear. It's part of the process. So when you see the Red Cross are there, and when you see persons like myself that are ambassadors and peacekeeping ambassadors, when you see us there, there is no threat to us. There is no immediate aggression towards us, because we have an office that is protected. We have a portfolio that secures our rights to be there. I want us to understand these things when you study and understand the dynamics of war. War is not chaotic. War is very organized and orchestrated. A war has guidelines and no-go zones and things you can do and you cannot do. Putin dare not make some aggressions or some moves that would cause him to find serious problems with those that legislate and oversee even the acts of war. So I want us to understand these dynamics so that we see things that are happening, but we recognize that these things don't just happen. There are legislations that govern how they happen. For example, I travel and I have immunities, and I use the term immunities sparingly and with due understand, or diplomatic courtesies and privileges. However, if I don't understand the legislation that governs and dictate those privileges, when I meet someone who does not know that I have those privileges and knows where to, if I don't have the ability to tell that individual, I will lose my privilege. Because you need to know what is your privilege and why you have it. What governs this? A lot of individuals are walking around and they don't know what authority they have. And they also don't know what authority they don't have. So it is important to be in a position where you learn to look before you leap. Anytime I'm going to address a situation, I always read the fine print before I speak. I find it easy to go and read the fine print, look at the legislation, look at the document, and understand what was said and what was agreed. And once it is understood, then you can go to the next level. Look before you leap. All right. How to effectively adapt to change. So this is the final slide that I will do for today. The time is now 7 minutes past 8 o'clock. I think I did very well with time today. Very proud of myself. I'm doing better. I think First Lady is smiling behind the scene, and His Majesty is also smiling. And what we're going to do is I'm not sure if Her Excellency Dr. DeFore is on her travels, but if Dr. DeFore is going to be in flight and on travels on Friday, I will conclude this. And if not, I will conclude this and continue this at a later date. But I think that what we have received in these past 2 days of training and mentoring, I think that that would give us a good perspective on adaptive thinking. But we're going to look at be a change agent, know the benefits the change will bring, have substantial information, exercise emotional intelligence, embody the change, be open to the process, and lead courageously. So we will look at that. We'll pick it up from there when we start this next session coming up in the next couple of days or weeks, or when we pick it up again. So with that being said, thank you so very much for listening in on this evening's training. And I want to ask for just a quick summary. Your Majesty, would you give us your take, if you're in a position that you are able to speak, Your Majesty? Just give us your take on this evening's session, and also you can greet the class this evening, Your Majesty. Welcome, and it's lovely to have you with us. Your Majesty Edwin Madu, if you're able. Okay, I think His Majesty might be in an environment where he's not able to comment. If he is, when he is, he will drop me a note if he gets in an environment that he can comment this evening. Your Excellency Architect Olusegun Olukoya, are you able to comment this evening? If you are, please share your thoughts and what you have gathered from this evening's training.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I to appreciate you and all the excellencies in the house, the management team, as well as all the excellency. Thank you for the presentation and then a build up on the class on Monday. And, you know, as if I suspected that the issue of change was going to come up, you know, and you talked elaborately on that. And of course, I also appreciate the fact that we in being open-minded, we should not jump into conclusions, or, you know, even if we are going to preempt in code, it's better we keep it to ourselves rather than express it immediately and allow things to play out, you know, and then we can now share our opinion on those matters. Because by the time we draw conclusions too early, we can burn bridges rather than build them. So I really appreciate that point, and also in being open-minded, you know, we can also spend our time to study our environment, just as you said, because if we can't just be in an environment and we don't open our eyes, you know, a lot of people, when they come for a meeting or come for a conference, they don't explore. They just sit in one place and, you know, catch the next plane when they are done and just go without studying their environment. I think at every point in time, just as you shared with us, sir, we should observe our environment. And I would like to just add very quickly that we should also observe body languages. It's very important. As we study our environment, we study body languages. Then with the wisdom that we have, we should be able to now put things together and then know that this and this should be my next line of action as it relates to this particular situation or position I may find myself at this particular point in time. You know, I will never forget several times you were called upon to come and make presentation in Dubai that you were not prepared. I mean, you were not pre-informed. If you did not take time to study the environment, your presentation of those topics that were given to you on the spot will not connect with the people. But for people to keep commenting that, you know, at the last minute you were given those topics, you were given those this thing to present, and to even anchor something you were, I mean, anchor a panel. That is not something you prepare for in minutes, but you were able to, because studying the environment, study the dynamics of the entire conference, and you're able to put two things together. So I appreciate what you have taught us today, because there are things that you have already modeled and you are just communicating to us. And we really appreciate it because we see it playing out in your life. And there are things worthy of emulation, and we must not take it for granted. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I have really learned a lot this evening, and of course, I'm applying them immediately. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
I hope you're applying them. One of the things that I'm very proud of you, Olukoya, and I will say it publicly, and I admire you and where you're going is you're just like me. And one of the things that you've mentioned is being versatile. And being versatile comes from having a well-rounded vocabulary, but it also comes from studying what you're walking into. Don't take it lightly when you see me take up a piece of document, or somebody gives me a document. I read everything. I read, and I'm going to be very transparent with you. I read. When I was an advisor to Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police, they gave us a huge document. I'm talking about huge, thick documents with statistics of what happens to the Black community, the statistics of murders, of atrocities, and all of those things. And the truth of what happened is, when they give a lot of other persons these documents, they're so busy they don't have time to read them, and they just put them on their desk. And then when they're going to meetings, yes, that's a good idea. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, that's true. That's true. But when I go in now and I sat on those panels and I am given an opportunity to speak, I am able to look at the statistics, and I'm able to look at the disproportionate manner in which the ethnic minority communities and the BME communities are treated. And I'm able to call numbers and figures and statistics and explain things that they know, they recognize. This man knows what he's talking about, because this man has took the time to read those documents. And I want to admonish you, Your Excellency Olusegun Olukoya, as an architect and as an advisor. I want to admonish you, when you have a time that you're going home and you have big documents, read them. Read them. Look through them and see points and see things that you want to focus on, and then do a little bit more research, so that when you speak as a credible authority. If you're dealing with architecture at the different levels, go and do a bit of research on architecture back in the 1500s and back in the day and the era. Look at why they have things. And I want you to be such a stalwart, because you have the capacity. And all of us, in whatever capacity that we're in, make sure we do our research. His Excellency Dr. Yours, who's going to come on next, is going to tell you he does his research. As a matter of fact, that is key to your success. That is key to the respect that individuals give you because you do your research, because you study, because you follow the right organizations, the right people, the right things, and people observe you from behind the scenes. Your Excellency, Dr. Ewers, I know you came a little bit late in the session today, but what is your take on what you've heard and what you've gathered from this evening's session? Your Excellency.
A pleasant good evening, Dr. Michael Steele, and all the excellency in the house. It's a fantastic, you hit a nerve for me because I like to be analytical. I like to think out of the box. I like Dr. Charles, he thinks out of the box. When you have people like us, we think out of the box, and I am going to go to the box today, but within the topic. So I would also like to ask you, you talk about adaptability and thinking and problem solving and, solving issues and so, but that is good in being an analytical thinker. But what I would like to say to you, so is like, how would you diffuse or how do you confront confrontational? In every situation, you're going to have confrontational people. They're going to hammer home with topics and things that you're running away. For example, in the UK, Prime Minister question time, when the MP stands up and bring a problem that they need to be discussed, they need an answer now, you have to be there and ready. And you're talking about reading. The Prime Minister's job is exactly like that. He has to know what's happening in the country. And so therefore, so when you have situations like these and being an analytical thinker and thinking adaptability and thinking out of the box, when you have confrontational, not really all goody, sugar coated, and you can speak well and you can articulate yourself, when it happens from the plus, the minus, the negative, the positive, and when you have to deal with confrontational situation, how do you present them and how do you manage it? So, Dr. Steele, could you give me a topic or a talk to solve that, sir?
Thank you so very much for your question, your submission, your access. You always add such a beautiful challenge to the class of Steele. You're like the reporters that faced Donald Trump.
Yes.
And Donald Trump has a very creative way of dealing with those confrontations that he cannot answer. Fake news, fake news, fake news. I think one of the things that I have learned in dealing with aggressive situations on my toes is you have to command your space. This is the first thing. If you don't command your space that you are in, if you're not in control of the environment that you are placed in, you're going to be dislodged and you're going to be overwhelmed in responding at times like that. That's the first thing. Make sure you command your space. Second thing is individuals that are being confrontational sometimes, they're testing sometimes your intelligence. Sometimes individuals can be testing your intelligence. Sometimes they know, but they just want to see if you as well know. Here's a very interesting thing that I have always carried with me as an ambassador, as a person. I've always carried this with me: integrity. If I don't know something, I am not intimidated. Nobody intimidates me with something that I don't know. If you look at a lot of high-profile ambassadors that speak, if you watch some of the debates, and I challenge some of you to watch some of the debates with ambassadors and diplomats at the United Nations press conferences and briefings and after conferences where they have to go and speak to the reporters. Remember, ambassadors are representatives for countries. They have to give an answer. They have to. That's why reporters are there to ask them questions. So when you look at some of them, I admire those that have that ability to say, I'm sorry, I haven't got any information on that as yet. So I will need to get back to you on that one at a later date. I'm sorry, I don't have the information, or I don't know those points that you're referring to. I would need to review and get back to you. Because don't ever be in an environment where you are intimidated to think that you have to know it all. We will never know it all. Never. I have a little secret about myself when I sit in meetings. When I sit in professional, high-profile meetings, there are two rules that I have. Rule number one, I don't want to speak first. I listen to everybody else. I do not want to speak first. I want to sit down in the meeting. I want to listen to every person who's going to speak. Second thing is I want to look at everybody's body language to see who is a friend playing an enemy. How many of you know sometimes you go into meetings and sometimes people that attack a person that you might want to attack, you then realize they're friends. They're not enemies, they're friends. You have to be very observant in the lobby when you're going into meetings to see who is talking and what they're talking about. I'm very observant. Remember, I'm a profiler. So once you observe these things, then there's something else that I do. I let everybody else ask the questions first. My question that I have is never a heated, burning question. Never. Why? Because I just want an answer to my question, and I'm going to listen to see who is going to ask the question that is going to strengthen the way I ask my question or add value to what I'm going to respond. And the third thing is I never ask a question somebody else has asked the same way. I found myself getting into trouble in the House of Commons one time when I was observing that one of the MPs who was sitting in as the chair for the meeting, he was avoiding all of the questions. He was actually avoiding them. The reason why he was avoiding them was because he was sitting in for the chair and he couldn't action anything. He just had to, okay, that is noted. Okay, that is duly noted. Okay, that is noted. But there were some things that he was seated to action and others he was just there to note. And the particular thing that we wanted action was not getting action. And I recognized everybody was asking it in a roundabout way. Well, I addressed it with humor. Sir, would like you to pardon my youthful zeal, but am I to be assuming and observing that every person is asking the same question a different way, but you are actually ignoring them diplomatically from my observations? So what am I saying in that response? You create an environment where you get wisdom and tact in how you approach it. For every person, it's going to be different. Donald Trump would always call people fake news, not you, don't want to hear you, and make people laugh at them. But the truth of the matter is he does not know the answer. He does not have the ability to respond appropriately. However, he responds in a manner that keeps him up top. He responds in a manner that people like Donald Trump because it is humorous how he did it. But the truth of the matter is, if you're like me and analytical, you can dislodge a person like that easily because you recognize they're not speaking or communicating. They just don't have knowledge of what they're talking about. Your Excellency, have I answered your question? You can unmute and just tell me if I have answered your question. Unmute, Your Excellency, we're not hearing you. Unmute yourself, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, can you unmute?
Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to say that what you've answered the question in a roundabout way, but sometimes I'm going to use you as an example, sir, and please don't personalize it because we are learning. You touch a very sensitive situation in Dubai when you was on the panel, and you, I was even squeezing my toe in my shoes when you said it. They were talking about people in particular Nigeria talking about investment. And you got up in Dubai on the platform and said nobody's going to invest in Nigeria because they can't be trusted. No, that was a very open statement, sir. In that kind of environment, with those kind of high-profile people, where you had kings and queens and president and prime ministers within that circle invested. No, so that was very confrontational, and yet I noticed my observation with the audience, everybody was silent because many wanted to say it, but they didn't have the strength or the gut to come out with it, sir. How do you be brave enough to say in a very high profile platform like that, sir, and to say a topic like that? Could you give me some explanation and enlightenment on that, sir?
I think sometimes when we, and first thing, let me qualify the statement for those Nigerians that are here, the statement, because it was created in an environment whereby individuals were looking at why they were not engaging finances, why they were not getting the support that they needed when they were trying. And we looked at a number of individuals who have tried and they were unethical in their dealings. And as a result of that, others have made decisions where they said, no, we will not trust these individuals. We will not work with them. But nobody wanted to say that. Nobody wanted to say that. So to bring to the forefront now what His Excellency said, that I clearly said was one of the reasons why they wouldn't engage the financing is because they can't be trusted. That's why those type of individuals don't get financing. Now, here is how, in spite of the audience, here's how I can be that brave, if I should use that term. And please, I say this in humility. When you are a world leader and you're a decision maker and you have individuals who take what you say and listen to you, you're not prone to being a person who pull punches and who is willy-nilly with the facts, because you recognize that you are in the position that you're in because persons expect that you are going to exercise a level of control over what you say and how you say it, and you have the authority to say it. And I stand as a leader and as a speaker and qualified to say what I say because I do my research, I do my homework, and I'm very confident. And if individuals would look at the statistics would clearly show that there's a disproportionate amount of individuals who behave unethically in business, and their business practices are, less than desirable. And when we look at such statistics, then we can have a level of bravery in communicating on platforms with international and global leaders at that level. However, again, the important thing was time and place and context, because you don't just get up out of context and create an environment where you discredit an individual or an organization. You don't do that. That is seen as that's not acceptable. But within the context of what we were speaking, it was an assessment that was unanimous, in agreement and in acknowledgement. I hope, Your Excellency, that I answered your question. Sound your voice for those who can't see your thumbs.
Yes, sir. I hope I haven't put you in the hot seat. It's not meant to be.
Oh, no. This is
learning, and I hope anybody don't take this out of context.
Yeah.
It's my mentor. I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to develop, and things that you do, I have to be honestly sometimes, so I don't think, I think it's confidence growing to that stage on a world platform stage at that. And that's why I just wanted to know to be in a safe environment like this and ask the question. It's not something that you're being rude with another country or you're being rude. I need to clarify that. Please don't personalize it. I just wanted to know and to learn. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, Dr. Yours, I appreciate you. As a matter of fact, I am one who embraces challenging questions. Ask them, get to know. If you want to derive benefit from your mentoring, you have to ask hard questions. And that's one of the things I don't run from, I don't hide from. My wisdom and my teaching that I'm imparting to those in the class of steel and those around the world is supposed to empower them to be better, empower them to be leaders. If they perceive me as a good leader or a great leader or somebody with great potential, my intention is to cause you to aspire to understand why I do what I do. When you read my books, you will get a deeper sense of who I am and why I do what I do. But I appreciate you, Your Excellency, and I never take anything personal. I really don't. I very much celebrate your questions and your hard questions, and I wish that the others will challenge me as well, be brave enough to challenge me, but they'll get there with time. I want to read His Excellency, His Majesty. He read, Your Excellency, I'm so sorry. I enjoyed the night session on adaptive thinking, but in the midst of people. Let's talk later. Thank you, and my regards to all the excellencies in the house. And that is from His Royal Majesty, who still remains in the class with us, but he's not in a position where he can openly communicate. So Your Majesty, again, thank you so very much for sitting in and allowing the class of steel to be a part of your evenings on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you again, Your Majesty. Stephen Abu, Stephen, give your take, please. I know you're seated there taking a lot of copious notes. Give your take, Stephen, and challenge me. I'm your mentor. Challenge me. Take a leaf from His Excellency Dr. Yours. He's not brave. Yeah. He understands what mentoring is about.
Yeah, Your Excellency, Dr. Mike Still. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to greet Her Excellency Jenny Still, the GOC Gardner. I want to greet also Her Excellency Bishop Dr. Comfort Adu. I want to greet Her Excellency Adiola Olukoya. I want to greet His Excellency the Chief Protocol, Professor Dr. Donald Uris. I want to greet His Excellency Architect Olusegun Olukoya. I want to greet Her Excellency, the CEO, Doreen Buringi. Sir, this evening, it's been quite interesting. You said I should not be restricted by my narrow views. And I was looking at various things in the environment I stay in, and people we meet in meetings and all that. They have very, very careful narrow views that they keep to themselves. And you went forth to talk about unhelpful thinking and thinking, to say also stop overgeneralizing, disqualifying the positive when it's not, because it's not in our favor, we want to disqualify it. It's quite cardinal. And jumping into conclusions. Say when you were young, you used to jump into conclusions, and we also have emotional reasonings and all that. I want to ask something. You said align new information with your past experience. It's quite cardinal, because if your past experience determine the kind of person, the beauty you have, the building blocks you have within your code, and your adaptive thinking, and you have new information about what is persistent now that is coming on new, and you want to be aligned. You want us to align with which compare the information we have new with the old one. You gave an example of your past experiences. You had personal experiences and all that, and how the new information is coming on. we just spoke now. The professor, His Excellency Donald Yours, talked about Nigeria and all that. With the current information, I know it's in context because of what was the topic being discussed and being said within the conference then. With the current information that you have and the current trend of things that you have, is there a new outlook towards the Nigerian situation? Do you have a new perspective? Do you have a new information you are aligning to the old ones? That's number one question. Number two, you talked about improving analytical thinking. That will be observant. We ask questions, focus on facts, and read books, learn how to think, learn how things are done. Play the brain game. Practice your problem-solving skills. Think about your decisions and all that. Logically, play the brain games. I want to expatiate. Please, you can expatiate. How do you play your brain game? Considering situations we have. If you have, like, take a scenario. Okay, let's take what the professor said. In that conference, if you had Nigerians that were there and you made a statement from the context you had, how did you play the brain game to come out of the situation? If they ask you a critical question on where were your facts coming from, even though you had it in context, and what were your experiences, re-experiences to give you such confidence to say such in that environment, in that seminar? Thank you, sir. I'm grateful, sir.
Your Excellency, Dr. Yours, I gave him an inch and he took a whole mile. I tell him you could hit me and he flogged me.
Sorry, sir.
No, you're welcome. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
very much for your question, Reverend Stephen. It's very interesting. And one thing I will share with us, just for reference as well. Anytime you're in a panel discussion or something, and somebody is going to ask a question, always have a pen and a piece of paper handy. Always remember to take notes so that you remember what the person asked you and you're able to do it. Just jot down a brief note. I dropped down Nigeria perspective and brain game, etc. So it just jogs my memory with what you asked me. That's important. Anytime you see somebody that is in a conference and they're not taking notes, they have a fantastic, phenomenal memory, which I do, and I can handle that. But I find that recently, because of being tired, I just kind of take notes. Okay, so remember, always have a pen and paper handy when you're in a discussion. Now, based on the Nigeria perspective and change, I'm going to be very honest. I'll be very honest, and I apologize for not picking on Nigeria. I don't even know why you guys are on Nigeria. I really don't know. As a matter of fact, I hold a Nigerian passport as one of my citizenship from my ancestral heritage. I hold a Nigerian passport. I'm a citizen as well of Nigeria, and I'm proud as well. And I don't even want that to be discounted in any way. I'm proud as a citizen of Nigeria as well. But let's look at some truthful dynamics that are very critical and important. I have discovered that there's a cultural dynamic that is infallible. It's actually a cultural dynamic that is faced. It's not just Nigeria, it's Africa, it's Barbados, it's the British. We all have cultural dynamics that govern what we do. And those cultural dynamics have put me in a position. I will say this: some of the craftiest thieves in the world, if I should use that dynamic or that term, are the British. They're the craftiest thieves in the world. They know how to put pen to paper and rob you. And I make no apologies for saying that, because if you have not understood the dynamic of reading contracts are written to take advantage of the person signing them to some degree sometimes. That's why it is important to read contracts and review them. What have I learned and what have changed? What have changed is my approach, my look before I leap approach. Before I leaped and I just embraced. Now I walk, I stay on the outside, I listen, I observe, and I wait for recommendations, and then I observe. And even in receiving recommendations, I will be very upfront and very transparent with you. I am even learning to be at a place where everybody cannot recommend somebody to me. And there are persons who recommend persons to me that I will not allow the persons to even get close to me. And the truth is because I recognize something. The only person you can vouch for is yourself. His Excellency Architect Olusogun Okoya, Her Excellency Adiola, His Majesty, they're individuals that for me, hands down, and there are lots of individuals, please don't take this, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Hilary Imo, Dr. Praise, there are many individuals, the long list of individuals that are Nigerians, and our relationship has just governed how we operate, how we work, how we are close to each other, how we take recommendations, how we don't take recommendations, how we make recommendations, how we don't make recommendations. And for me, I have taken it as it's a long haul. This is not a short-lived or a shortfall quick fix. Me going to Africa to do what we're doing in Africa with our teams, with Ethos Asset Management as our partners and financiers, and the things that we're going to be doing in Africa and around the world, it's not a quick fix. We're going to take our time and build relationships and learn individuals. We might get it wrong sometimes. I'm prepared to get it wrong sometimes. And not prepared meaning that I'm going to accept it, but I'm prepared meaning that I'm not always going to get it right. And the recommendation that you make might not always work out the way I want it to. And I have to be willing to accept that. But in accepting that, I have things in place that I will minimize those hazards. I will minimize them as I go forward. How will I minimize them is before 100 people all over Nigeria would bring me projects and says, hey, this is a project we would like to do. Would you endorse this and present this? And I used to be, yeah. Now, no. One, I look at it, I observe, I listen, and I do my due diligence, my research, and I take my time. I'm not desperate, I'm not anxious anymore because I've understood the terrain that I'm working in, so I maneuver differently. The question you asked me about the brain game, I hope that answered your question. So basically to say with Africa, with the rest of the world, with Europe, to be quite honest, because Nigeria, don't separate Nigeria. It's not about Nigeria. It's with Africa and the rest of the world. It's with people that I work with. It has nothing to do with Nigerians. Nigerians are just human beings like anybody else. You have good people, bad people. British, good people, bad people. Europeans, good people, bad people. Caribbean, good people, bad people. And it's a straight across the board. What I do is I don't create an environment where I criminalize a culture. You can't do that. I criminalize a country. You can't do that. And that's called stereotyping. As a matter of fact, as an advisor to the Metropolitan Police, one of the things that we discussed and we recognized was stereotyping is the biggest problem in the United Kingdom and in Europe and around the world, stereotyping. Because individuals see black skin, immediately you're a criminal, or immediately you're driving a BMW and you have a hairstyle that is locks, you're a drug dealer. That's not true. My father wore long locks, and my father was one of the top engineers for Sky TV. And by the way, tomorrow is the 8th anniversary of my father's death. So go easy on me with calls and appointments tomorrow, because tomorrow is a day of reflection for me. All right. But on the point now of the brain game, I will tell you, I have developed a way to tell my friends the truth that will hurt them, and it didn't hurt them because of the way I told it to them. You have to look at the person, look at the culture, understand the dynamics, understand who you're speaking to and why you're speaking, but understand that you're adding value. Never speak in an environment or with a mindset or an attitude where you are not adding value. You're with me? It is always important to add value. Don't hit somebody because they did something wrong and not praise them or bless them for something good that they do, or elevate them for something good that they're doing. Nigerians are some of the most successful business people around the world. Nigerians command empires and build empires. The Gatwick Airport, the airports here in the United Kingdom are owned by Nigerians because why? They have the brains, they have the skills, they have the wisdom, they're articulate, they're competent, they're confident. And that's one of the things that you cannot take away from Africans. You cannot. They're competent, and when they're competent, they're confident. And when they're confident, a lot of times, one of the problems that they're faced with is they become arrogant. That's where the thin line is drawn. Not because they're not capable, not because they're not competent, but because they become arrogant and they don't have the ability to reason. They don't have the ability to sit in training like this and learn how to communicate effectively, professionally. Why? Because they have the money, and because they have the money, they have the resources, they think they can buy whatever they want, get however they want, whenever they want. They don't need to respect anybody, you know. And then you also have individuals that follow these extremely ultra high net worth individuals, and they're just minions. I say the word minions because they don't use their brains. They don't use their thinking. They just go and they treat people badly and roughly and harshly because these mega wealthy individuals are sending them on an errand. So you have those dynamics where the culture and the environment needs to be mentored and trained in appropriate ways of engaging diplomatically and professionally. There are lots of individuals that they would come to the deal table, and when they sit with some individuals, they'll get up and walk away. With me, I see that both of them need each other. Come on, a billionaire has $1 billion, but he needs more money because he has expenses and things that he needs. So he's gonna need the next deal because he has persons that he wants to employ that needs work. So we look at the dynamics and we find ways of bringing them together. But be assured, wealthy people are some of the hardest people to manage. They're the most difficult, sometimes impossible people to guide unless you are creative. And being creative is knowing how to play the brain game. You just have to know how to play it, and play it with respect, with honor, with dignity, and with identifying who is my chief authority. Always remember, in every battle you fight, there's going to be a superior. Every battle you fight, every battle, every single battle, pick your superiors wisely. And once you pick your superior wisely, then you engage appropriately. I hope that I have answered your question. No, we cannot see your hand. You have
Yes,
to
sir.
respond.
Yes, Your Excellency, you've answered. It's quite correct, sir. The two questions. I'm fed. Thank you, sir. Very grateful, sir.
Thank you very much. Adiola, Your Excellency Adiola, I know you're seated there soaking all of this up. What is your take on this one? The time is now 10 minutes before our closing time. And Your Excellency Adiola, can you unmute yourself? Your Excellency Adiola, are you hearing us?
Yeah, she's unable to unmute.
Oh, okay. Is she with you, Your Excellency, that she can speak through you, or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please swap seats.
Good evening, Your Excellency.
Adiola, you will have to turn off. Adiola, turn off your
Okay.
speaker because it's gonna
Okay,
echo.
sir. Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Actually, I'm not going to say much, but I just want to thank God for the privilege tonight, for what you've spoken to us. As you were just talking, this actually really caught my attention. When you said, that sometimes, when someone is talking, or maybe a discussion is going on and another person coming, not understanding the topic, that is being treated, and the person will just say something which is quite different from what is on ground. There is actually need for one, to listen, to really have that, have the ability to listen to others while talking, and then having understanding of what to say. Not just to talk because one can talk, but to listen carefully to what is being said. And when you were saying something about what is going on between the these two countries now, the Russia and then the
Ukraine.
and Ukraine. The way you were actually saying something about it really caught my attention as well, because a lot of people have different opinion about Russia, about Ukraine and all those stuff. These people blaming Ukraine, that one blaming Russia. But actually, do we actually understand what really caused the war? Many people don't really actually have understanding of it. So you don't jump into conclusion, just like you said. And I think I'm working towards that. I'm learning to do that, to listen more. And you said something again that I won't forget. You said that as ambassadors, we shouldn't think we have all solution to all the conflicts. Because we're ambassadors, and then you meet something on ground and you feel you can handle it. No, I think one needs the wisdom, and one needs the wisdom of God to be able to handle situations. So we don't just jump into things. So thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. My name is Adiola Olukoya from Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency. I want to make a very critical point that I hope it comes across clearly. The wisdom of God gives us the ability to be analytical and how to approach situations. But the wisdom of the document that was given to you gives you the ability to be appropriate in the meeting. I want to say that again. The wisdom of God would give us the ability to be analytical and professional and how to address things. That's the wisdom of God. That's inert, that's spiritual. But the document and the contract and the agreement and the books that are present will give you the ability to speak with authority to the situation at hand. A lot of reverends or ministers and bishops think that because they have divine inspiration as leaders at that level, that they can walk into legislature and an office of political influence and be an authority therein without understanding the documents and the contracts and the agreements and the legislations and the policies and the procedures. So I hope that within our teaching, we always respect and understand that there is a role that our divinity plays. Our divinity gives us that ability to decipher and discern with wisdom how to behave and how to act. but our study and our research on the subject content conducive to what we're dealing with, the matter at hand or the office that we're holding is very important and cannot be neglected, because God is not going to give you something that you never studied. You can't get it. He bring the Holy Spirit and our teacher bring those things to your remembrance. And you can only remember what you learned. If you didn't learn anything, it can't come to your memory. And I hope that that's clear as we continue to build in these classes our understanding of how to operate. Your Excellency Adiola, I was waiting if you would respond or if you would say something. Don't leave me hanging.
Your Excellency, sir.
Yes.
Actually, I was just telling my husband when you picked on that particular part that if I wanted to include it in what I wanted to say, is very, very important, to read the book. Even the Bible itself encourages us to do that. We need to have understanding. And, I quite agree with this, sir. Because if you have the knowledge of God and you don't study the document given to you, the person will look like a fool. Because, you will not be able to demonstrate the power of God there. So I quite agree with this, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Well, with that being said, the time is now 2 minutes to 9 o'clock. Wow, we're bang on time within our 2-hour time frame. I think we did very well today. Your Excellency, Jeannie. Oh, by the way, those of you who are in the group, could you kindly, if possible, as a matter of fact, let me, those of you, could you put a review? We are gathering reviews for the class of steel because we have another level of things that is happening. So if you could put a review there in the review section, that would be very helpful to us in our closing. So Your Excellency, Jeannie, we are closing. Do you have anything to say while we close?
Greetings to everyone. Good night to you and blessings to all the excellencies and all the ambassadors in the house today. I would only like to remind everyone or inform everyone, if they don't already know, that we're having our first youth conference on the 12th of this month. So the information will come out soon on how to register and so on in the coming day, maybe tomorrow. And we're going to have we're calling it a convention really because it's happening over 2 Saturdays. So it'll be Saturday the 12th and Saturday the 19th. And I would like everyone to come out and support the young people in the class of steel, our youth department, as well as to share with others so that they can also come and support our young people, because our young people are our future. And incidentally, our theme is called Future Focus. Their theme is called Future Focus. So that's our young class of steel youth convention. It's going to be the 12th of March and the 19th of March, running from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. both days. So that will be my my announcement for today, my bit of reminder.
All right, thank you so very much, Your Excellency, and thank you so very much, Han, my darling. The interesting thing about that, and please note that the youth convention, there's no charge or anything, it's just register and come. And we're gonna have the youth who are going to be speaking. They're the ones that will be the speakers for the event. And we're also gonna choose 1 or 2 very high profile key persons that will speak with the youth as well and endorse them. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being a part of our youth that are coming up. I'm proud of them. They've been through 7 months of mentoring, and they're now going to have their first opportunity at presenting. So let's see what the youth are going to do in their presenting. And afterwards, we are going to choose 2 or 3 of them that we will give them their own session to be doing their own thing. And that's something that's coming up that I will tell you a little bit more about as we get closer to that day. Your Excellency Doreen, I saw that you came in. I'm not sure if you were watching on YouTube and then you came in after, but Your Excellency Doreen, I can't leave without letting you at least greet the class and as we close in class this evening. Our COO.
God. Yes, good evening, Your Excellency, Dr. Michael Steele. Good evening, Your Excellency, Jenny Steele, and all the excellencies in the house. I joined in, how are you doing? I joined the class and immediately I got an emergency and I had to take this call. It took long and I said, I have to sign in. I have to go back in. I hope they are still there. So I just concluded and I said, let me show my face.
Okay.
Like I said, if I'm not in the class of Steele, I feel part of me it's not in one piece. This is my submission, Your Excellency.
Okay, your emergency is something
yes,
that
but
is,
I'm fine.
Your emergency is something that is in order. You're okay?
Yes, Your Excellency, I'll be okay.
All right, I'll call you immediately after class. I'll call you.
Okay.
All right. I want to appreciate all of you who have been a part of this class. His Royal Majesty, again, it's such a pleasure to always have you, Your Majesty. Thank all of you that were a part of the class in acknowledgement of what we're doing and where we're going. I believe that change is coming, positive change, not just in the class of Steel, but globally. And I believe equally that all of you who are here are that change that is happening. And I hope that you are equipped and empowered to make a difference in wherever area you are shot as an arrow to influence that change. I wish you well. On the behalf of the management and the team of the class of Steel, our partners, our associates, I acknowledge His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Hilary Emott and our upcoming event that we're having. And equally, I want to acknowledge Professor Carlos Santos from Ethos Asset Management, all of our other partners, friends, and associates. We want to thank them for being a part of the Class of Steel vision in making the world a better place. I'm His Excellency Dr. Michael Steele and Her Excellency Jeannie Steele. Good night and God bless everyone. Thank you so very much for being in class with us. Bye.